Well, g'day. Welcome back to another episode of Got the 4 Points. That's right, we're changing it up for finals time. Pistol doing the intro. It's been an absolute incredible week of football. Most leagues in finals, not all though. There are still a few leagues that were battling hard to try and secure those finals positions. Lots happening. There's been some upsets. There's been some straight sets exits. There's been some ineligibility that's interrupted teams that thinking they've moved their way into the finals. As everything that's happening is going to be covered. Well, nearly everything. We are just an hour and a little bit, but we're looking forward to digging into what has been an incredible weekend of football. How are you doing, Rob?
I'm good, mate. Very good, thank you. And there've been a couple of premierships won already as well. It's already got to the pointy end of the season for some people, and some fans are already off on their Mad Mondays. We can't forget that. Silly Sundays, Mad Mondays, clogging up pubs and bars all around Victoria. Absolute carnage on the streets, I'm sure. I know that our boys had a pretty good time at their silly Sunday. So shout out to everybody who was nursing a hangover early this week. And shout out to everybody who is not nursing a hangover because they're resting up for a finals spot. Yeah, there's so much going on, Pete. We've got a lot of cool things to cover. And hey, don't forget, as always, Spotify, Instagram, YouTube, it's all happening. Send us tips. This is the time of year to send us a tip. We haven't had that many. But please let us know all of those good final stories that are happening around your area. And send us your picks for who should do these intros. Let's get some competition going.
Exactly, exactly. We're nothing but a competitive bunch. Episode 22, Rob. Geez,
Wow.
we're managing to stretch this nearly as long as an AFL season. So just a couple more rounds for us left to get to that. We might even just surpass the AFL season in terms of regular season, but we'll see how we land. And I'm really keen, Rob, to get a good understanding of what's caught your eye this week.
Well, I guess with you doing the intro means I can lead us off. Is that right?
Certainly does.
All right, here we go. So I like this. This is the
Yep.
pressure off my shoulders. I can just jump into what I've prepared here. Pete, I said a couple of premierships have been run and won, and in my first two, what caught my eyes, I am going to head to those leagues because I think we need to shout out those teams that have got their hands on silverware nice and early, and they can have Mad Monday at the same time as the AFL teams with their premiership medals around their necks. How good's that? So, first place we're going is the Upper Murray League. We did mention this last week. We did foreshadow this grand final as one that could take Kajua to a record equaling 39th flag. Not to be, Pete. Bulio got the job done there in the Upper Murray Grand Final, winning 17-7, 109 to Kajua 11-5, 71. Good kicking all round
Great kicking.
from both sides there. Um, well done, Bulio. The Bulldogs, one of the great Bulldogs jumpers I've ever seen, by the way. If you haven't checked out the images, they've got a really nice design, I reckon. Back to back for the Bulldogs of Bulio. And it looked like a pretty good game, very close through the first half. And then a 6-goal to 2 premiership quarter blew it wide open for Bulio. It's not called the premiership quarter for nothing. And in this case, in the grand final, it proved to be so. So, as I said, well done to the Bulldogs. They were the strongest team all year. Um, no record equaling final flag for Kajua at this point. But as I said last week, they've been in a lot of grand finals recently, and I'm sure they'll bounce back. And this is Bulio's ninth senior flag in the Upper Murray League. So well done them.
Yeah, congratulations to Bulio. Always exciting. I know that you are going to mention another grand final in your next what caught your eye, but I'm interested who held silverware first. Like
Mm.
what final siren went first to see who was the first in Victoria to hold up that. And look, I must say that that's from a senior men's perspective. There's probably some juniors that have been holding up silverware over the last couple of weeks. both boys and girls, and maybe some women's leagues where
Definitely.
there's been some silverware being held up. So I must admit, we are talking just men's silverware there as to who held it first, because there have been plenty of others holding up silverware before that.
And a few in the VAFA, I know, in the thirds competition as well. So,
Correct on the
yes.
weekend. Yep.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. Absolutely spot on. So Rob, am going to take us there. That's a great little segue. It's like you maybe read the run sheet, but I'm going to take us to VAFA, but I'm actually going to take us to the other end that we don't often talk about. And I'm taking us to the divisions. So Division 1, 2, and 3, who started their finals on the weekend. And we've spoken about it before, love. Spoken about it before, Rob. I love the element of promotion relegation in the VAFA, and so I just wanted to have a really quick look at who was already stamping their passport to move to a different division or grade in future years. So, Division 1, Ormond, still yet to lose a game. They've cemented themselves a position in the grand final and Prem C for 2026. Pretty, no, not necessarily convincing in terms of big result, but around 5 goals there against Old Peninsula, which has been somewhat a team that's been on the rise there in Div 1. I know you and I were looking at that result on Saturday to see if we could strike Nathan Jones's name anywhere, who had started playing for Old Peninsula, but nowhere to be found, which is intriguing. Not sure what the go is there. Now, in terms of what's happening in the prelim final, the Old Peninsula will be playing Q, who knocked off Oakley. So Q and Old Peninsula will now go into that preliminary final with both of them pushing to see who can join Ormond in Prem C the coming year. So, yeah, Ormond have been on a massive winning streak. I know that a few weeks ago there was a post going around that I believe it was their longest winning streak in club history, I believe, from what the VAFA put out. So big credit to them there, and they've got a really great opportunity to not only go up to Prem C, but to go up to Prem C with a premiership under their belt. So we'll see
Mm.
how that goes. But Rob, Division 2 absolutely took the cake in the VAFA this week for the first lot of finals. The absolute epic games. The Old Yarra Cobras, which just really good name, Old Yarra Cobras, love that. They have made the grand final and will push themselves into Div 1 by defeating St. Mary's Salesians by 1 point. One solitary point is what held St. Mary's Salesians from an automatic grand final berth and Div 1. And not only that, Rob, they will now take on South Melbourne, who defeated West Brunswick by 3 points. So
Mm.
three
Wow.
solitary points in the elimination final. West Brunswick watch their opportunity to get into a prelim and potentially keep their dream of promotion alive, snuffed by 3 points. And it was a goal at the 25-minute mark that gave South Melbourne that win that put them in front. So for a fair part of that last quarter, West Brunswick were probably keeping the dream alive. So
Yeah.
really intriguing to see off the back of two really good first finals what St. Mary's Salesians do against South Melbourne to see who join the old Yarra Cobras and go head to head in that grand final. So really great work there. Looking at the final division series, Div 3, powerhouse, Rob. They've been a powerhouse all season and they've continued to be a powerhouse. They will play in the grand final and Div 2 in 2026 after they knocked off Wattle Park fairly convincingly. And Wattle Park will regroup and play North Brunswick in the finals, in the prelim final, sorry. So plenty happening there in the division structures. As I said, 3 teams have already stamped their passport as to where they're heading in 2026. And now there's 6 teams across those 3 divisions that are all vying for that final stamp on the passport in their division to try and get up there as well. And I think you and I have spoken a little bit about it. Those prelim finals often hold a little more intensity, strangely enough, than what the grand finals do, because everyone wants to be playing that higher division. Everyone wants what comes with that, which is often a chance to recruit better players, often the chance to convince sponsors as to your
Yeah.
status and where you're going. So that sort of next level is really important, which makes those prelim finals absolute battles. So really keen to see how those three play out this weekend.
Yeah, nice summary. I was just doing a little bit of looking through my epileptic spreadsheet here to see if I could work out a little bit about whether these were going to be record promotions, and I can't see anything that jumps out too much yet,
No.
except that Q haven't been as high as C grade since 2017.
Okay.
So that would be the most significant promotion in terms of recent history if they were to win this weekend.
Yep.
All of the others who have been promoted or vying for promotion have been up at a higher grade in more recent years than that.
Yep.
So yeah, cool. Lots happening in the divisions and lots happening in A grade as you talked about last week and B grade, which I'll touch on a little bit more later when we talk about Old Trinity. So, Pete, last week I announced the Upper Murray Grand Final as being the first one, and it was very remiss of me not to have done the research to realise that there was another senior men's grand final happening in
Mm.
country football last weekend, and it was not in the northeast of the state, but in the very northwest. Not only was it remiss of me not to think of this grand final happening, but I reckon we haven't said much at all about this league in the history of Got the 4 Points. So we'll rectify that now. The Millewa League Grand Final was decided on Saturday at the Lake Colour-Lorraine Sports Precinct. What a fantastic part of the world Lake Colour-Lorraine is. I have fond memories of the family holiday there back in the day, and that would be a very picturesque oval to be at in early September or late August, I reckon. So, Werribee won that grand final. They defeated Bamble by 28 points at that picturesque ground. Now, the win is notable for a few reasons. It's actually had been a very rocky season for Werribee off the field. Unfortunately, a number of people at the club were embroiled in what sounds like a sexual assault scandal that's resulted in several people leaving the club. So that's really unfortunate. Uh, Terrible situation for that club, but they've managed to rally. That's pretty impressive, I reckon, for those still at the club to rally behind that club despite all the off-field drama and make the finals. And they actually went on a really big run. They're the first team since 2013 to win the flag in that league from outside the top two. So they won uh, their last four games, I believe, including
Mm.
three finals. Well, and of course, the last one being the grand final to end up winning the flag. So very impressive work by Werribee there. Also notable for the fact that that win ends a four premiership run for Bamble. So, of course, with the COVID years, that's dating back to 2019. So, the
Wow.
first new premier in the Millewa League since 2019. Well done to the Wirral Magpies.
Yeah, well done there. That's very impressive. Is that top four in that league, Rob?
Top
Do you
five,
know?
I think.
Top five, yeah. So done very well to win it outside of the top two,
Yep.
given it's not been done since 2013. Rob, I'm going to take us to the Riddle District Football Netball League, and we mentioned them last week in terms of Kyneton having a win there, their first in that league. We also mentioned the win by Riddle against Diggers Rest. Now, Diggers Rest finished on top of the season, top of the ladder at the end of the season with 15-0, and then went through a really strange patch. Lost three games at the back end of the season, lost convincingly to Riddle in that first final, and have now gone out in straight sets, losing to Kyneton by 2 points. So they've absolutely fallen off the cliff in the last month. And get this, Rob, it doesn't get any better reading if you're a Diggers Rest fan, because the Tigers, the Kyneton Tigers, were 24 points down with just 6 minutes remaining on Sunday. And they're basically saying what happened next will go down in club folklore. It was sparked by young gun Harry Ryan, who kicked a number of goals in the game. And Kyneton kicked the last 4 goals to storm home, where fellow rising star Angus Nolte, he had a chance to win it at the death, only to see his shot touched on the line by Justin Tenaglia. And what then that meant, Rob, was extra time. Scores were a level. Not something we've seen too often in local footy, but we have seen it happen here and there so far over the last few years. But the game went to extra time, 5 minutes either way. And crazy, Rob, but neither team really impacted the scoreboard in that scenario. It was 86 all at the end of the third at the last quarter, and then by the end of the extra time, it was 12-17-89 to 13-9-87. So only what 4 points added in total, three to Kyneton and one to Diggers Rest. But that's basically put Kyneton into a prelim final now against Macedon, who lost their final to Riddles Creek by 8 points. So a very close game there. Riddles Creek now goes straight through to the grand final, and Macedon will now take on Kyneton. I thought, interestingly, Rob, that leaves, in terms of ladder positions, it's a top 6 in the Riddle League. That leaves, with the 3 teams left in finals, second in Riddle in the grand final already, and the prelim final will be fought out between 5th and 6th. So pretty incredible when you think that the teams that finished in the last 2 spots will both be playing off for a chance to meet Riddle in the grand final. And who knows, maybe the Cinderella story that has been the Kyneton Football Club this season will roll on. And how pertinent would that be, Rob, that you and I caught a Riddle game, and the one we caught was Kyneton v Riddle. So it would be interesting to see if we get a rematch there, because that was a game that sort of up to half time, and even midway through the third quarter was really tight between both teams. But there's still a job to do for Kyneton in needing to get over Macedon, who have been a very impressive team this season as well. So yeah, congratulations to Kyneton, and I dare say a little bit of soul searching there at Diggers Rest.
Yes, the things that immediately come to mind there is the first one is it's a really bad time for the Diggers to take a rest.
Good, good.
Second thing that comes to mind is sparked by young gun Harry Ryan. I'm pretty sure he's the one that took a specky when we were at that game. He was quite an eye-catching player, I would say. I'm not
He was pretty
surprised.
lively.
He
Yeah.
was lively and got a bit about him, recognizable in the long sleeves. So well done to cousin Harry there, namesake.
You
And
claiming him?
I'm claiming him. And yeah, very impressive. Well, kind of bizarre to have second, fifth, and sixth left. The way that Riddle closed out that game against Kyneton, you'd have to think they are absolutely licking their lips at the way the rest of the competition has opened up for them. And well, look, if Riddle don't manage to win the premiership from that position, um, they will consider that they've blown a big opportunity. But form at the right time of the year,
Yeah,
you
definitely.
just never know. And
And in saying that, Macedon were ahead for a fair bit of that game against Riddle, only
mm,
going down by 8 points in the end. So
yeah,
I don't think Riddle would have necessarily left that game against Macedon thinking, can't wait to meet them again in a grand final, hopefully.
yeah,
The Riddle might be sitting there going, geez, I hope Kyneton can keep winning and we can play them in a grand final,
yeah.
because from the result, it looked like Riddle may have gotten away with one against Macedon, who got off to a very quick start in that first quarter, 3 goals to 1.
Right.
But unfortunately got run over a little bit late.
Also, it comes to mind that there's an impressive streak of form going on up that stretch of the Calder Freeway, Pete. Sunbury featuring heavily in finals,
Yep.
Kyneton, Macedon, Gisborne.
Melton,
There's Melton as well. That area is doing very well and going great guns. So good stuff to all those clubs.
agreed.
All right, Pete, I'm going to take us to a league we talked about a little bit at the start of the season, but have kind of diverted our attention away from a little in
Mm,
recent times, and that's the Outer East Football Netball League, We know that Wandon have been the powerhouse in that league this year, but it's actually Olinda Ferny Creek, which I'm struggling to say, but they had a fantastic win on the weekend. It was a sensational snap from hard in the pocket in the dying seconds that won that game for Olinda Ferny Creek against Wuriyalak in the qualifying final, that was. So the player in question has one of the best names that we've covered in local footy so far this year, one Jethro von Hess, or maybe Jethro von Hesse. I don't actually know.
We've
I,
uh, we've
my,
we've just got to say Jethro von Hesse, I reckon, because that sounds even better. Even if it's not, that's what it is for got the 4 points.
okay, Jethro von Hesse. Yeah, um, I don't sprechen Sie Deutsch very well, so um, I'm not quite sure what that one is. Well done to Olinda Fernie Krieg. Apparently, Jethro also scored an amazing goal earlier in the game with an inspirational chase down tackle. So
Wow,
sounds like he had a day out, and
had a day.
coach was full of praise in the media reporting that I saw, as he would be. Now they will go into the preliminary final against Wandon for a spot in the grand final this weekend. Pretty tough assignment for Olinda Ferny Creek because Wandon have been very good this season, going at 17-1 throughout the home and away. But Olinda are in good form at the right time of the year, and those kind of wins can spark something. So my hopes are with them. I'm gonna sneakily get on the Olinda Ferny Creek bandwagon. I like the sound of them, and I like the sound of Jethro von Hesse. And also, I did a little digging back in the season, and Olinda Ferny Creek and Wuriyalak have just had one of those years where they can barely be separated, Pete. Quite remarkable.
Mhm.
Wuriyalak won both of the encounters between those two sides in the home and away season by 1 point. Both of them by 1 point. And then the qualifying final went the other way, a win to Olinda Ferny Creek by only 4 points.
Wow.
So a total aggregate margin of 2 points if you take the pluses and minuses there between the two sides. Shades of Uni Blues versus St Bernard's in
Mhm.
VAFA A grade, except that those two clubs didn't get to cap it off by playing in a final. So outstanding from those teams. And geez, I'm loving these stories where you find that there's been teams far and away out the top on the front on the top of the ladder for most of the season. Finals come round, Pete, and funny things happen, and we're finding out about all these interesting little stories and close rivalries that have been going on.
Yeah, no, that's really good. That's what a name. What a name to add to
Yeah.
the hallmark of got the 4 points, Jethro von Hesse. And look, we try not to mention the Blacks too much on this podcast, albeit it's very rare to see one, if not both of us in Blacks gear. Um, but I've just got to mention, Rob, because you mentioned it was an incredible goal there from Jethro von Hesse in the pocket. You and I were witness to our under 19s semi final against St. Kevin's. It was a 10:30 game at Western Oval in Royal Park. The oval was an absolute mud pit. It was raining.
Well, it was underwater.
It was underwater. More was being added to it from the skies above with rain. It was windy. It was just an awful day. And one of our players, Henry Holmes, in a game where most players couldn't kick 10 meters straight in front of them because of how heavy and slippery and the ball was and how much their boots were getting stuck in the oval itself.
Well, they couldn't
He
pick the ball up.
well, that too.
Yeah.
He has kicked from the pocket a left foot check side goal that's gone absolutely straight through the middle in outrageous scenes. That had you would some players were struggling to kick the goal from 5 meters out, just basically soccering it through, and he's just check sided it from the pocket. It was incredible. Absolute credit to him there, and it sounds like Jethro equally kicked an impressive goal, but it sounded like he also had an impressive game as well. So glad you've covered that one. Rob, I don't know whether it's becoming my one of my topics of expertise, but I'm taking us to the Southern Footy Netball League. Timekeeping, Rob. we've we need a timekeeping course, or I don't know what we need. AFL Vic need to do something around timekeeping. But in
It's about
fairness,
time, Pete. It's about time.
it's good by you. In fairness, this is not actually the fault of the timekeepers themselves. But let me take you through this story, Rob. So spectators were left bewildered in Division One finals after both clashes, both the finals there, failed to produce 100 minutes of football. Now, 20-minute quarters plus time on. Now, if you think just a raw 20 minutes, that's at least 80 minutes. So you've got to at least play 80 minutes. That's regardless. But normally you're getting at least maybe 5 to 10 minutes time on. Not here, though. Barely managed to play 100 minutes of football. Quarters across Saturday's qualifying final and Sunday's elimination final barely exceeded 24 minutes total. So some of them were not even getting to 24 minutes. 24 minutes was the longest quarter they had. With the final siren for the do or die clash between Springvale Districts and Bentley blowing at 4:06 p.m., just 126 minutes after the match had begun. 126 minutes after the match had begun, they've just gone, all right, that's enough. We've seen it. Spectators didn't really know what was going on. I don't think coaches really knew what was going on. Now, the reduced minutes appear to relate to the clock still running when the ball was out of bounds, which you sort of look at and go, okay, that's weird. Why are they leaving the clock on when the ball's out of bounds? Historically, timekeeping with the game with time on, you would always, press the time off button so that time doesn't elapse whilst the ball is out of play. However, a copy of the 2025 finals time keepers instructions, which I'm impressed there is such a thing, but that there is such a thing, that guide or instruction booklet that was used across the weekend stated that in seniors matches, time off for the ball going out of bounds will not apply unless there is a lengthy delay as signalled by the field umpire. As a result, the timekeepers didn't stop the clock when the ball went out of play. Now, I just thought that's really weird, Rob. That's a weird thing to do. Then I kept reading, and it was even more weird because, and get this, the league said that after considering individual feedback and the fact that club timekeepers had often stopped the clock for every boundary throw in during the season, and the fact that it would revert to stopping the clock for scores when the ball goes out of bounds, and when there is a delay in play for senior matches or for scores. So essentially, they have time kept the way that we know timekeeping to be done for most AFL matches where there's time on. They've done that across the course of the whole season. And then for finals, they've thought, you know what? Let's really speed this thing up. We're a bit bored this season. We're ready to get going, and they've not put time on for balls that go out of bounds, resulting in matches that have barely gone 2 hours. So it's I think common sense has prevailed, and they will revert to normal timed matches for the remainder of finals. But I'm not sure common sense should have been needed to rectify that. I think common sense probably should have just said maybe just keep timekeeping the way you have all season. So I don't know what's going on there at the Southern Footy Netball League, but maybe a little bit of an update to their 2025 finals timekeeper instruction booklet is required.
That's absolutely bizarre.
Weird.
I really have no words for that. Um, don't fix what ain't broke. I think that's the main advice I would give uh,
Good
to
advice.
the Southern Football Netball League there. Absolutely extraordinary. Um, there are a few timekeepers who come to mind who wouldn't mind that rule change, but I think yeah, I don't think it should be fiddled with. It also brings to mind the old reserves scenario, where 25-minute flat quarters in the reserves, so certainly in
Yep.
the VAFA. I don't know about other leagues. I think would be probably quite common not to have time on in the same way in the reserves. And the old scenario where if the game's close at the end of the match, and one side might like to just run the clock down a little bit. The ball might just find its way out of bounds a little bit further than normal, just in order to bring the clock down. Geez, that old saying that could have been champions used to say, "I'd hate to see a final decided like that." And
Yeah,
imagine if they kept that 2025 handbook in play for the grand final, and
I
it's
know.
1 point the difference with 25 minutes on the clock, and some bloke just boots the ball out over onto the road, and
Correct.
oh, it's out of
I
bounds. We can't blow time off. It's
I have seen, not in a finals game, but I have seen in a reserves game where a team was 2 points up with very little time left on the clock. The team that were 2 points up were kicking the ball out from a behind. Now, I also must state this was in the days where deliberately rushed was not a thing.
yeah,
So this is sort of those days. Knew there wasn't much time left on the clock. The man that was kicking the ball in, there was what I would only basically say forest area behind the goals that I think he sort of looked at and went, if I boot the ball into there, it's going to take a hell of a long time to get it back out. And so played on, turned around, and absolutely barreled it through his own goals. The ball would have sailed about 60 meters, and goal umpire goes, "Oh, okay, well, what's going on here?" Does the old point thing. Ball is not found by the time the siren goes, Rob. The ball was still being searched for by the time the siren went. It was one of the cheekiest things I've ever seen done. And I think might be the reason. Well, A, can't do it now because that would definitely be deliberate rushed. But also probably why they do. I know for even like the reserves in the VAFA, it's during the season 25-minute flat quarters. During finals, they will normally play 17 minutes time on,
yeah.
which gets them close to that 25-minute mark, sometimes more, sometimes a little bit less. But it stops people from just doing that tactic because you can take 50 minutes searching for the ball, mate. The clock isn't going anywhere. But that is just one I've seen in my time.
That's extraordinary. I have heard you tell that story before. I still can't believe it. It's incredible. I can sort of believe it, but yeah. Yeah. Anyway, all right, let's go. Let's go back north, I think, Pete. So
Yep.
I want to take us to the Golden Rivers Football Netball League. Now, in terms of close results, in terms of milestone goals, in terms of those kind of things, we haven't had too much to cover from the Golden Rivers League, but we have said a lot about the fact that this league is disbanding
Mm,
at the end of this season. So I wanted to just make mention of this as it will be the last grand final of the Golden Rivers Football Netball League. So shout out to everybody playing in grand finals in the netball and the footy this weekend in that league.
yep.
It brings to end a league that's been running since just after World War One,
Yep.
formerly known as the Kerrang District Football Netball League, latterly as the Golden Rivers League, as part of the Central Rivers Football Board. And we have talked extensively about that football program on this show. So yeah, last grand final. Who's going to be the team to take home the very last Golden Rivers Premiership flag? Well, it's either going to be Ultima or Hay, who have been the strongest two teams all year and indeed last year as well, Pete. Ultima got the chocolates in that grand final last year, and this year Hay have been the stronger team. So Hay will be going into this game full of confidence, with a record of 13 wins and 2 losses throughout the home and away season, compared to Ultima with 11 wins and 4 losses. In the semi-final earlier on, Hay already played Ultima and got the better of them by 25 points. So extra confidence there for the Lions. But I did see that Ultima did beat Hay once this season by 50 points. So they've got it in them, Ultima. and you just never know on grand final day. But yeah, the last Golden Rivers Football Netball League grand final this weekend before some teams like Maccorner head off into the Loddon Valley League and others head for the
Central
my
Murray.
Central Murray. Thank you. I might have gone blank there for a second.
Yep.
But yeah, end of the Golden Rivers. A little bit sad, and we will let you know next week who it was that won that last cup.
Yep, bit of history up for grabs there, Rob.
Mm,
Little trivia question: who won the final ever Golden Rivers men's senior premiership? So we'll wait and
mm.
see whether it's the answer is Hay or Ultima. I'm taking us to another one, Rob, which just a little strange one. Apparently, there must be some rule, especially across metro leagues, that when you get to finals, you've just got to do things differently because doing things doing the tried and tested method of years just isn't cool enough apparently. So for any of those metro leagues that are looking to trial something for future finals, there's always my scoring system that they're more than happy to borrow if they want to do that for finals. So just hit us up at Got the 4 Points if you're interested in going through that. But I'm taking us to the Essendon District Footy League, Rob. Um, Now, finals footy, it's always a funny time of the year, and they've decided to go with a new look structure in their Division 2 finals, and it may have already been the wrong decision. So, minor Premier Glenroy have been bundled out in their first and only final. So that's what you get for finishing on top. You get one opportunity, and if you lose, you're out. So we're normally seeing that a top two finish, or in some leagues, a top three finish, earns you a double chance. Not so in this division. The EDFL decided that the top three, so it is a five-team final structure. They decided that all top three would go straight into preliminary finals, and then fourth and fifth would play an elimination final to see who would also play in that preliminary final. So really no benefit to finishing first, second, or third. You might as well have finished third if you're going to finish first because you're going straight into a prelim final. Now, some may argue that yes, the difference there being is that first gets to play the winner of that fourth v fifth game. Um, but ultimately, Glenroy have gone straight into you know, a do or die situation against a team that's had a week hardened by finals football. And we do know that sometimes that week break for a team can actually disrupt them, actually can serve as a bit of a sort of the opposite effect of, being fresh and rested. So Glenroy, the best team all season, in what I will admit, that Division Two ladder was very close. It wasn't like they were miles away, Glenroy, and in fairness, they did sort of admit themselves that they've only got themselves to blame for having lost the game. They just didn't play well enough on the day. But they've received as much reward as they would have finishing second or third as finishing on top. I think maybe one for the Essendon District Footy League to have a look at in the off season and go. If we're worried about the amount of weeks it takes, maybe we need to move to a a top four structure so that we've only got 3 weeks of finals. Otherwise, if you're playing a top five, I think it's got to be top gets the week off, two and three go into a qualifying final, and four and five play an elimination final, and you have 4 weeks of finals instead of three. So maybe a little bit of off-season cleaning up there for Essendon. Maybe they can develop a finals instruction booklet as to how to play top five, along with the Southern Footy League doing their timekeepers.
Yeah, that's another great story, Pete. That's another bizarre one.
Yeah.
Left scratching my head a little bit there. Fair play to Glen Roy, who've come out and acknowledged that they probably should have won the game. But yeah, I think I did see that story in the media as well, and I thought that's a bit weird.
Mm.
not really a great incentive for teams to want to push for a top finish.
Not
You know,
really. No.
I suppose that their only advantage was that they got to play supposedly a weaker team by playing the winner of 4v5. That's kind of
That's about it.
that
Yeah.
was their advantage. Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Well, turns out it wasn't a great advantage.
No, not in the end.
All right. So now wary, Pete, of covering leagues that we already have talked about quite a lot, but I did want to go back to the Maryborough Castlemaine League because speaking of straight sets, I just wanted to highlight straight sets that have occurred in the Maryborough Castlemaine League, uh, and not straight sets where it's one set. This is straight sets where teams that had the double chance have gone straight out. Two of them. We did talk last week about the absolute pearlers in week one of the finals in the Maryborough Castlemaine League, where Harcourt lost to Trentham by only 4 points and Talbot lost to Carisbrook by only 1 point. Well, Pete, Talbot and Harcourt have gone on to lose their semi-finals also by pretty close margins. So Natty Bialaba got up by 8 points over Harcourt, and Navarre got up over Talbot by 5 points. That is an unbelievable turnaround for Navarre, who lost to Talbot by 70 points twice in the home and away season this year.
Yep.
That, that's a 75 point turnaround, or maybe even a 145 point turnaround, depending on how you look at it, compared to previous times they've played. I don't know whether Navarre have got some players back. Maybe Talbot had some soldiers down after a really tough game against Carisbrook. Don't know what's going on there, but
Mm.
it really looked like the top four was really locked away to be playing in the preliminary finals.
Yep.
Not to be.
Mm.
Not to be. Navarre will play Trentham in the first prelim final, and Natty Bialaba will play Carisbrook for spots in the grand final. And I would note that Carisbrook are really in the driver's seat now, Pete. They have the home advantage with the remainder of the finals to be played at their ground, not for the first time in some time at Maryborough Princes Park, which I think is a disgrace
Agreed.
personally.
Here, here.
But look, well done to Carisbrook. Whoever's lobbied for them to get the finals venue for the prelim and grand finals has done well because with their biggest rival, Talbot, exiting the finals, I know Trentham have been good this year, but with Talbot exiting the finals race and a home ground advantage, I would expect Carisbrook to take out that premiership. I'd be very surprised if they don't win it from here.
Now, Rob, integrity of the league here. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm interested in what they're going to do. Now, look, I'll come clean. I'm not overly convinced of the integrity of the MC DFNL off recent decisions that they've made, which I might have something in my run sheet about. But Trentham, let's say Trentham and Carisbrook both win their prelim finals and make the grand final. The grand final, as you've rightly mentioned, is at Carisbrook. Trentham finished on top of the ladder. Does that give Trentham the right to have the home rooms and push Carisbrook to the away rooms? In my mind, it does. But I don't think the Maryborough League will do that because honestly, they've got about as much spine as what the Bendigo League have. But there's a little crack there for Bendigo. Just not that we needed to do any more than what we have in previous episodes, but I like the idea that Trentham might just be like, away rooms, boys. We'll see, get on to your away rooms. This is our home rooms for finishing higher on the ladder because I think the argument should be made that the higher team on the ladder should get the right to have the home rooms.
Do you think Trentham would want to be warming up for the grand final surrounded by Carisbrook merchandise and premiership flags, though?
100% I would because
Yeah,
I
okay.
because I think it would just be a little fu
Yeah,
to your opposition. I would look at that and be like, yeah, I'd want to do that for sure. Um,
okay. Yeah, that's good. I like that. And then second thing I was going to say is your case would be better if Carisbrook hadn't upgraded the away rooms
True.
from what they used to be.
You're
Now, we've
absolutely
talked
right.
about this a lot,
You're absolutely
having
right.
played junior football at Carisbrook, and anybody, whether if you're listening or anyone else from Carisbrook, those old away rooms were, I would say, very generously referred to as the chook sheds by pretty much everybody
They were
who ever
bad.
went there.
They were
They
bad.
smelt, looked, felt just like a chook shed,
They were
and
awful.
they were terrible. And I really like the idea of Carisbrook having to use their own chook shed while Trentham are in the nice heated. I don't know. I've never been in the home rooms at Carisbrook. I imagine they're pretty good, but
Yeah.
great
No.
call. Great call by
Anyway, that
you.
was that was just something
Mm,
that came across my brain, and I also think I'd have to go back and double check, but I think that's 2 years in a row Harcourt out in straight sets,
mm,
which not good for them. Don't know what's going wrong at that time. Mind you, when I say what's going wrong, both Talbot and Harcourt could almost consider themselves unlucky to not be straight into the prelim, let alone the fact that they're both out in straight sets.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So certainly some good finals there in the Maryborough
Yeah.
League. Let's hope it keeps up for the prelims. But yeah, anyway, I'll just let everyone sit with that little
Mm,
gem as to what happens with the rooms if Trentham and Carisbrook both make it. On that point, we were at Toorak Park, Old Zavarians, and they also famously, before the redevelopment of their rooms, had some away rooms that were less than desirable. We had one of our stalwarts from the club refer to their showers as prison showers, which gives you a little bit of an idea of the state of that facility. But
which he quickly clarified was not because he spent time in prison, but only from movies, he said. So whatever.
true. I'm not
Make of
sure
it
I
what you will.
Not sure I buy that excuse, but anyway, Rob, I'm taking us to the Hampton Footy League. This was a league that hadn't started finals yet, but was absolutely in the thick of it when it came to who was going to make finals. And I know we had a long discussion around Portland versus Terang Mortlake and who was going to finish in that final fifth spot. And it was a crazy weekend for it, Rob. So let me go through this. Portland have a very comfortable win. They're having a very comfortable 60-point win. Now, both of the teams entered the day on the same amount of. Sorry. Portland entered the day one game behind, but a better percentage. So a win and a Terang Mortlake loss would see them in. However, if Terang Mortlake won, then or even had a draw, then there would be no chance for Portland to make it. So Portland did what they needed to do. They had a win. They had a very comfortable win, helped their already healthy percentage. Terang Mortlake were playing third on the ladder, the Warrnambool Blues. Now, you're probably thinking if you're Portland, that's a tough assignment. If we can win our game, then hopefully Warrnambool Blues can do their job. And they did, Rob. If you have just a look at the final ladder, Warrnambool Blues did their job. They had a win. But for Terang Mortlake, it was absolutely heartbreaking because it was a 1 point win. So Terang Mortlake 1 point away from even just a draw, which would have seen them claim that fifth spot. They also had four of the last scoring shots and kicked 1-3, which is very heartbreaking. Even just another one of those three goes through. Think about any shots that probably were taken throughout the course of the game that maybe fell a bit short and didn't even make the distance. 1 point is all that's held them back from finals in 2025. So pretty heartbreaking there for Terang Mortlake. Look, I'm somewhat stoked because we've covered Portland earlier this season. They finished last season last with no wins, and they've gone from that to finals. And we did have, I reckon it, Rob, would have been in maybe our fourth or fifth episode. We had one around them playing the theme song, which hadn't been played for
Yeah.
years, and they were practicing the night before. Well, I like this, Rob. The The Portland game was still being played. There was still 10 minutes to go in the Portland game when the Terang Mortlake game had confirmed finished. And some fans and some players were left a little bit perplexed as to why Portland fans in their cars were on the horns with 10 minutes to go. But they'd gotten word that Terang Mortlake had lost, and they were on the horns, letting everyone know that they had made finals. So I can only imagine what atmosphere that would have brought with 10 minutes to go in the game, and all of the Portland fans are on the horns. And I can imagine, as a Portland player out there, you must have just been like, we've done it. And what an incredible feeling that would have been.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the idea of getting on the car horns
Yeah.
at the end of the last quarter. 10 minutes to go, probably when the ball was out on the wing or something, and probably some player running with the ball to shit themselves, thinking, "What's happened? Why why are they tuning me?"
Maybe. I mean, imagine if it was like, boundary umpires throwing the ball in, and it's just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
I'm just everyone's, maybe I've just done the best boundary throw in of my life. And everyone's just absolutely gotten around me.
Nobody applauds the boundary umpires. We all know that, Pete.
Oh, no,
They're all
I was having a pretty good interplay with the boundary umpire in the old Zavs game in the last quarter. He was loving some of the banter coming from the sideline.
well. That's because you were having good interplay with the old Zavs players themselves. So that's a story for another day.
It certainly is.
G'day, number nine, number 50, if you're listening. Um, I'm pretty sure that they're not, because you know they're old Zavs. Anyway, um, last one for me, Pete. I want to. We've covered quite a few in the north of the state, and I'm gonna stick in that part of the world. I'm liking that we have looked at some of the suburban leagues as well this week, and I did have a little look around some of the other leagues like the Western League, and we'll talk a bit more about that one next week. But the finals results were really big, and the Geelong League, the results have been big.
Mm,
So, as in the margins have been big. I
yep.
wanted to go up and just touch on the Calder United Lions. This is a really cool story, Pete. They are into the grand final up there in the North Central League after an against the odds win over the flag favourite Birchip Watcham. Now, Birchip Watcham in one of the great names in local footy, one of the great footy jumpers there in some sort of random Dockers like kit, the old fashioned anchor and all that. Birchip Watcham 16 and zip in the home and away season have lost the first final to the Calder United Lions. So another example here of a team doing very well in the home and away season and having the loss they had to have, unfortunately, at the point when it matters most. Birchip Watcham do get another chance this week against Sea Lake Nandaly. They do get a double chance for having finished on top of the ladder up there in the North Central League. But I wanted to highlight Calder United Lions because this is a grand final in their first season as a merged team, remembering that they were fielding a Calder United team as the merger of Witcherproof, Narraport, and Nullawil. So well done to the Lions, and even better, the serendipity here is really cool. Um, I read in the Weekly Times that Witcherproof Narraport won the flag in their first season as a merged club back in 1964.
Ooh.
So the Calder United Lions, incorporating Witcherproof Narraport and Nullawil, they maybe have a bit of a good omen on their side here. That would be truly remarkable if Witcherproof Narraport and Calder United Lions, incorporating Witcherproof Narraport, were able to win the flag in their first
Yeah.
seasons, some 50 years, 60 years apart. That would be very, very cool. So, good luck to
That's
the
right.
Calder United Lions. They will await the winner of Birchip Watcham and Sea Lake Nandaly on the weekend.
Yep. That's really great. We do know someone that's playing for Sea Lake Nandaly. So yeah,
Yeah.
let's see how he goes. Hopefully he has a stinker. If Pato was listening to this, he'd love that. He
Come
probably
back to
wouldn't
the
though.
Blacks, Pato.
Come back to the Blacks, Pato. Actually play for the Blacks instead of just standing on the sidelines like he did
Yeah.
for 3 seasons.
Yeah.
Um, Rob, I'm going to take us not too far away, but just a little more sort of west to the Wimmera Football Netball League and Dimboola v Stall. So elimination final. Now, I mentioned before that there was the extra time in the Kyneton Diggers rest game. Not only one extra time in this game, but double extra time was required to decide the winner, which is incredible. So the match was sent to overtime when both teams were level on 87 points each. Now, after the first period of extra time, Dimboola was leading by 6 points when the siren sounded, but stall forward Paul Summers booted a goal to level the scores, and the match then required a second stanza of extra time. In that second stanza, Dimboola was the only team to score, and they finally ended up winning 16-18, 114 to 15-10, 100. So incredible game there. Double extra time. And I'm not actually sure what the rule book states for some of these country leagues, but I'm pretty confident in leagues like the TAC Cup and other like VFL and maybe even the AFL. I'd have to check what the AFL is as well, but I'm pretty confident at some point, maybe it's the third extra time, they actually play a golden point. I'm somewhat convinced that that's the case. I feel like I remember like maybe Jack McRae back in the day in the TAC Cup kicked a point that won the TAC Cup for his team. A lot of that could probably be turned out absolute junk, Rob, and I've just told complete lies. But I'm pretty confident there's a story out there like that. So absolutely incredible there for Dimboola and Stall. Hey, if you're gonna go out in an elimination final as Stall, you might as well make the most of it and do double extra time and then get on the tinnies and silly Sunday and Mad Monday after that. So I'm sure some of them have probably still got a sore head as we film this on a Wednesday night. But yeah, I thought that was a nice little
Yeah.
story from the Wimmera League.
That's incredible. I was wondering what happens if they keep piling up extra time. And I was thinking about, especially in country footy, whether the old penalty shootout from like 45-degree angle 50 meters out, whether that would, even straight in front probably from 50 meters out,
Yeah,
whether you might have to go to a penalty shootout at some point. But yeah, no, good
yeah,
work.
it is a good one, and yeah, it would be interesting. We might need to look into the rule book for some of these country leagues to understand what they do in that situation. But I do know other leagues do have the golden point or the golden score,
Yeah,
very similar to what soccer sometimes has.
yeah.
Rob, my final one, I've just got one more here from my perspective. It's become a little bit of a, maybe this needs its own little segment, its own little topic, but it's league moves. So it's keeping everyone up to date on where the league moves are at. Um, it's become somewhat my topic of expertise
Mm,
lately. There's been no extra word on Gisborne yet from AFL Vic, but I'm anticipating that we'll hear soon as to their decision. I did note in last episode they do only have 14 days to make that decision, so they'd almost be 7 days down, so they don't have much longer left. But I want to go to Rob, the Maryborough Football Netball Club. So one we discussed previously in Got the 4 Points. We mentioned that their application was denied. We went pretty hard at the league for not releasing the numbers of what the votes were at. It was also a league that had changed their constitution voting so that board members could get a vote. Yeah, some interesting elements happening there. But Maryborough Football Netball Club announced earlier this week that it has reapplied to join the Maryborough Castlemaine District Football Netball League for next year after having their initial application rejected in July. Now, the league says that a vote on whether to include them in the competition will be conducted after the final series and league's presentation night. I didn't hold great hope for that vote, Rob, based off what the president of the Maryborough League, Paul Wicks, had to say. And let me just read this for you. In a nutshell, and they know it will sit there until we get around to it. We have made it real clear we'll look at it when we get to it. That's as classic avoidance behavior as I've ever seen it. Oh yeah, we'll get to it when we can get to it. It's not like we're dealing with the future of a club and people that play there and operate it or anything. We'll get to it. Look, there's important things to do. All right, there's there's another 2 weeks of finals. I can imagine putting on the sausage rolls and pies for the League B and F night is very challenging. It's hard to get to these things, Rob. In fact, there was even a note that it may take them until 2026 to make a decision, which is beyond belief bonkers. Um, I also found this quite intriguing that the constitution of the Maryborough League actually allowed the Maryborough Magpies to have another go without needing to wait for the traditional timings that the AFL Vic normally have as part of their league moves. And I suppose the difference here being, of course, that Maryborough, not currently in a league, do not need to really follow some of those AFL
Mm.
processes in trying to move from one league to another. So the Paul Wicks revealed that the Magpies could apply as long as it happened before September 30th, which they have since done. Again, a statement here from Paul Wicks where I don't know, Rob, get the temperature of what he's saying as to how keen he is on this application. But his statement goes: "Our league rules allow it. That's why they've put it in. We can't knock it back." Uh, which I don't know. It's hard to get a read as to what that looks like there for the Maryborough Football Club trying to join the Maryborough League again. Just finally, Rob, on that before I get your thoughts, I did just want to mention as well that there have been some preliminary talks I see on resurrecting a competition on the footprint of the former Northern and Echuca League in 2027 that's gaining some early traction from clubs. So clubs like Kahuna, they're certainly looking. That Echuca League, I think, was running back in the 90s. Some early discussions between some clubs as to the potential revival of an Echuca League, which I thought was intriguing, knowing that the Bendigo Football Netball League, I don't think have made any real sort of a secret about the fact that they see their future involving some of those northern clubs around that Echuca Moama area. So yeah, just a little watch and see there. But interested in your take on what's currently happening in league moves with Maryborough.
Oh, well, before I get to Maryborough, I was going to say it'd be a great trip from Broadford to Moama in the Bendigo League. How good would that be?
Well, imagine going Gisborne to Moama.
Yeah, well, Broadford or Gisborne to Moama, either of those. Ridiculous. Anyway, Paul Wicks's statements there from the Maryborough Castlemaine League are pretty grim, aren't they? I mean, yeah, that's uh that's a statement of a father trying to deal with a petulant child, not you know, not a president who is being presidential in the way that they're handling an application by a 160-year-old football club without a home who has tried to pull itself up off the canvas after what was frankly a pretty poor round of treatment by the Maryborough Castlemaine League. Look, fair play to the Magpies for giving it another crack. They weren't treated well. We know that the numbers were not released, but we can only imagine the vote didn't go very well. Um, and I hope that they know what they're doing. I hope that they've got a read on the numbers, and I hope the numbers are better. And I hope that the league can have it stuck up and frankly.
Yeah, well, I don't hold much hope in the comments there from Paul Wicks, and yeah, I just think I think the comments are a little bit disrespectful to a club any club, but a club like Maryborough that just wants their players to have an opportunity to play. Their junior club is still operating, so they're still actually they've got football and junior football going on. I believe they've still got junior netball happening as well. So
Mm.
they've still got activity there. They just want an opportunity to play senior football. But
It also smacks of a situation where the league actually doesn't want Maryborough to succeed because we know that in country football signings are happening already, player transfers are happening already amongst clubs that are not playing finals and not Maryborough Magpies not being able to announce whether they have a team in that league for next year is putting them at a disadvantage to every
mm,
other club in the state
yeah,
and certainly to every other club in the Maryborough Castlemaine League should their vote be
mm,
accepted. So
yeah.
it's it, I understand finals are on, but surely this would trigger or could trigger the convening of a very quick 10-minute Zoom meeting. We don't even have to all meet in person these days, Pete. People have got the ability, as we are doing right now, to do stuff online. That this would be a 10-minute meeting. Hi everyone. Item on the agenda is the renewed application from Maryborough Magpies. All in favour? Yay, nay, done.
Yeah.
Not that hard.
No, agreed. And look, I think one of the things I've seen from both the Gisborne situation and the Maryborough situation is, and this might seem well, it might seem critical because it is critical. I don't think leagues have any interest or care for the clubs themselves. They care about the strength of their league. Now,
Mm,
don't get me wrong, leagues understand that the strength of their league comes from the club. But as an example with Gisborne, I don't think it makes logical sense for Gisborne to stay in Bendigo. Bendigo is pushing more to the north than they are to the south. And so I think it makes sense for Gisborne to go to Ballarat, where there is much more local competition for them. But the Bendigo statement was very much around this would be detrimental to the strength of our league. So they care more about their league. And
mm,
I think it's same here with Maryborough. The Maryborough League, Maryborough Castlemaine League cares more about their league than they do about a club. And, I think you could probably just ask yourself, what has the league done to support Campbell's Creek in trying to remain sustainable? Outside looking in, maybe they've done something internally, and I'm not privy to that. But outside looking in, the answer is nothing.
mm,
Uh, the answer is they've not done much. I think if Campbell's Creek put their hand up to fold, next week, I don't think the league would be doing much about it. Leagues have this real concern about their own strength as a league
mm,
and not about the clubs within their leagues, which is strange to me because the clubs within their leagues are what builds the strength of the league. So I think it's, again, we've said it before, you know, where does the responsibility of AFL Vic lie in trying to navigate some of these discussions?
mm. Indeed. Well, that wraps up a pretty long what caught our eye segment. There is just so much to cover, and unfortunately, there are a lot of other finals that we haven't been able to get to. But in our last section, Pete, let's tick off our remaining paddock to premiership picks. You and I have one left each. So I'll start us off with Old Trinity in the VAFA B grade competition. Now, the OTs actually finished off the season last weekend with a final round loss, unfortunately, going down to I've written Old Camberwell, I think it was actually Caulfield Grammarians, by 16 points. Caulfield finishing third on the ladder, so not not a terrible thing to lose to third place on the ladder. I did wonder whether Old Trinity maybe rested a few going into that week, knowing that top two was sewn up. But anyhow, this weekend is an absolutely mouth-watering clash against Old Ivanhoe. These two teams have been the top of the bunch in
Yep.
what has been a very, very tight competition all year. They have just stood out not certainly not far and away
No, but
runners ahead of the pack, as we can see with Caulfield beating Trinity in the last round. But the strongest two teams, the favourites for promotion, I think we might go to that game, Pete, which will be exciting. I'm looking forward to watching a VAFA game that, well, it's not that I'm not looking forward to watching a game with the Blacks in it, but it'll be a bit of a different thing for us to watch a VAFA game that doesn't have the Uni Blacks in it.
yes.
Um, and yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. Now, I do wonder whether Ivanhoe might have rested some players last weekend because they just snuck home over winless Hampton Rovers in the last game. So again, maybe some mind games and restings going on there. But I expect this to be a pretty bruising and tense clash between these sides. Old Ivanhoe, I have to consult my spreadsheet. It's a very long time since they've been in
Mm,
A grade. I
yes.
think it could be, my guess is it might be more than 20 years since they were in A grade. And
Yep.
Old Trinity, we're talking about 7 or 8 years, I think, since
Yeah.
they were last in A grade. So
Yep.
um, this is a huge game, especially for Old Ivanhoe, because promotion back to A grade is something that that proud club will think they have earned
Mm,
after two very strong B grade seasons.
yep.
But I'm feeling pretty confident that Old Trinity will get the job done and secure automatic promotion, given that they've beaten Old Ivanhoe twice this season already.
Yep. That'll be good. Looking forward to being at that one with you. And yeah, it'll be nice to watch a VAFA game without having all of the stress and, without, without potentially seeing a 6 goal pile on and being like, oh no, how are we going to come back? And it'll,
Yeah,
if Ivanhoe or Trinity get a 6 goal pile on, I'll just be enjoying good football rather
yeah.
than worrying about the outcome. But Rob, my North Albury Hoppers, it's a bit of hey now, don't dream, it's over. They lost by 22 points to the Wang Magpies, got absolutely blown out in the second quarter, 5 goals, 3-0-2. They did try and make a spirited comeback in the last quarter, but it was just too far gone at that stage. Um, it was just Murphy for my Joshua twins, who still managed to kick five, which is impressive. But unfortunately, Minogue succumbed to the ankle injury from the week before, so very costly because those two have been sort of the two-headed dragon of that forward line, with both of them really bobbing up. So yeah, bit of a shame. The season had some highs there for the Hoppers. It had some times where they were potentially pushing into that top two, top three. It was that game against Myrtleford the week before that just saw them miss out on that double chance, and that's been enough to see them out of the final series already. So my paddock to premiership compared to last season, Rob, my paddock to premiership is done this year, and I'll just have to sit idly by as I watch you talk about Old Trinity and see how they fare up.
You might have to pick somebody else that you got to focus on for the remaining weeks of the finals. We'll see what you can come up with.
I'll pick
It,
old Ivanhoe. No, I'm kidding. I'm sure I can scout around and pick someone else for a little bit of a look for just for the final series.
yeah, piss off. No old Ivanhoe. All right, very good, very good. I noticed that you put the hey now, don't dream it's over. I mean, I never knew whether that actually was don't dream, it's over. Or is it like don't dream it's over?
I don't know. It's a fair point.
So
I'm
yeah,
not sure.
yeah. One of the, I mean, trying to decipher Crowded House lyrics is a little bit like trying to decipher Bendigo League strategic policy. So um it's uh it's a tricky one and it's a quagmire that we need go no further into. You like that one, did you?
That was good. That was very good. That was a good. I mean, unplanned, but that was a great setup. You've hit that one for a home run.
Thank you, thank you. Well, it's nearly cricket season, so I'm getting my six hitting in form.
Teeing off.
I'm teeing off. No, I'm not a golfer. Anyway, enough analogies. We better finish there. We've been yakking way too long. So many cool finals for us to watch. over this weekend. We will bring you all of the most exciting and interesting results next week. We hope if your team is not in it any longer, that you go and get the 4 points. And if your team still is in it, that they get the 4 points. We'll see you guys next week.